thank you for having such love, charity, Christian charity. I know. When my nephew got married, he was a wedding in the summer, and his mother said, so, you know, no matter all this,
Give me one
you're
second.
oh, God, and you let him do that?
Well, it was my son, so technically I couldn't really,
What are you gonna say?
even though I paid for the whole wedding.
Like, football, I mean, you know.
Everybody's.
What's going on? What's
Alright, so I got the link, what's the page? Two,
205, 27.
We're gonna give Brandon just a second there to get something up on his computer.
My running days are over.
His people's here.
oh, I'm sorry, the two links were identical, so I think I'm on the right one now.
Maybe he's gonna make a,
You think I
maybe
was
he's
wrong?
gonna make a dramatic entrance.
Did I tell you I used to work there for a law firm? In Chicago, McDermott, Will, and Emery. Have you ever heard of them? They're a big one. And I just worked in the law library filing law. That's all I did. But I would see.
So you were like Michael J. Fox, picking up success style.
Is that what he did?
Working up in the mailroom.
I just remember I could be. I set my hours.
Yeah,
how
I think
wanted,
we're ready
and
now.
get up.
Our next item is approval of our agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Jordan's by Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Forgot to announce that.
All right, and it's unanimous. Let's go to approval of minutes. I'm sure everyone's taken the time to read their minutes. Would someone like to move that we approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll say.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that one's unanimous. All right, let's go to the next item, which is public comment. Public comment is limited to 5 minutes and must be directed to council per city ordinance 2022-8. If anyone would like to speak to council tonight? Yes, sir. If you would come up to the microphone and state your name and
You speaking about the land,
Yes.
the mayor, does he need to do that now, or when we bring that ordinance up about the land?
If it pertains to the land, the rezone ordinance, there'd be public comment period during that time.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go to Miss Marcy
Louts.
Laux of McKinley Cooper and Company.
That was the first time anybody's had trouble saying that. I'm just fixing that statement. I already forewarned him. I was like, I'm used to Marcy. So my name is Marcy Laux, and I'm with McKinley Cooper and Company, and we performed the audit for the city of Walhalla for this past fiscal year, June 30th, 2022. I'd like to thank y'all for the opportunity for letting us perform this engagement. It was really well done. We didn't have a lot, we had to do our work too, but it was nice to have someone who knows what they're doing looking at it and having feedback and good stuff like that. So you've got a good team here, And the good thing too is at least I always like to tell everybody the monthly financials that y'all are seeing are what is good and accurate. Because I see some where a lot of journal entries, when we change it a bunch when we do the audit, but nothing really changed in this one, just so y'all know. So you can rely on that information. And it's also good you have another party involved to help segregate duties, all that good auditing stuff. So if it's okay with y'all, I'm just going to hit some highlights since I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know, fortunately. So some of this stuff, if you want to stop and ask me questions, feel free to. If you want to reach out to me later and ask me questions, I love people to ask questions. Hopefully I can answer them all. But if not, I'll find out. So without further ado, the first 3 pages is the independent auditor's report, which is the most important report to me. It's gotten an extra page longer this year, but basically what this is telling y'all is that we audited the financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2022, and in our opinion, they are presented fairly. So basically, it doesn't say this, but we issued an unmodified or a clean opinion. We call it unmodified, which is good. It's the best opinion you can have. Don't really say, it says our opinion in a bunch of paragraphs, but basically that's what it's saying. It's fairly presented in all material respects. And it talks about our basis that we have to be independent. Of course, we follow all of our principles, that your responsibility as management is the preparation and fair presentation of them, which you have some good people overseeing it, so it's good. If there are any questions on that, pages 3 through 9 are your management's discussion and analysis. I always feel like this is the most user-friendly part of the entire audit, because the rest of it gets in a lot of detail, but I think this hits the highlights, gives you current year, prior year comparisons in a good, nice, readable, I feel like user-friendly format. So if anything, I always recommend y'all look over this, if you haven't already read the whole entire thing. But so I always like to recommend that. So without further ado, on page 10, this is the city statement of net position. Also, you could call it your balance sheet, if you will. But for governmental, it's statement of net position. This is a full accrual, so it has long-term and current liabilities and assets. It also combines your governmental, which is like your general fund, any special revenue funds, along with your utility, your water and sewer, which is called business type on this, refers to business type. So for the year ended June 30th, 2022, the city had total assets and deferred outflows of about 45 million. You had total liabilities and deferred inflows of about 27 million, which left you with a positive net position, fund balance, retained earnings, you may have used to hear it in a different way, of almost about 17.8 million. So I like to point out here that 17.8 million, which is your assets minus your liabilities, does include, I know y'all have heard this a bunch about the GASB 68, the PIBA, the retirement that we are required, so you'll see a huge, I shouldn't say a huge, I guess it's all relative. You'll see a liability on your books that we are required to record on your books, but you are making all your required contributions. I always like to tell everybody, it's on there, but you can't pay it down. So it's based on I'm never gonna say it, actuarial. That's one of my hard words. Actuarial results. So we just rely on the state to give us those numbers, and we put it on there. So just so y'all know, I get questions. Why can't we pay it down? You can't. You can't. You're doing what you're supposed to do. So I always like to back that out, if you will, to kind of show you. I shouldn't say a more real presentation, but actually all that GASB 8, the PIBA stuff affected your net position by 4.4 million. So just so you know, if you look, your total net position, your unrestricted, which is, it's about 14% of your net position. That's what you can use to make payroll, things like that. The rest of it's tied up in assets like trucks, and you got a new trash truck this year, things like that. So it doesn't make payroll. But you still have a positive, even with the GASB. I rarely see towns and cities who put that GASB in here who are negative, but y'all are still positive, even with that 4.4 million included in there.
Good.
That's good. It's nothing like presenting and having a huge negative and trying to explain it. So I'm always excited to see that. So I was going to say, out of your total net position, 79% is tied up in fixed assets, like I said. 7% is restricted. So that restricted means outside sources restricted. So that's about 7%. And then that leaves you with 14% unrestricted. So that's good. So this year y'all did get one new capital lease for a trash truck, but that's all the new debt you got. Y'all did pay off almost $800,000 worth of debt. So you got a little bit new capital lease to buy a truck, but y'all still made a lot of debt payments, which I like to point out too. So if there aren't any questions on that, see, everybody knows all this. Did I confuse you with all that, throwing all those stats? Did you have a question?
I was just curious about our bond rate, and so, but I guess that'll come later, so.
Yeah, I feel like that bond rate, I don't think we have that in the back, do we? I wouldn't know the bond rating off the top of my
Not
head.
the credit rating, no. But
Yeah.
there's an enterprise section that covers, covers the bond. It covers all the utility fund.
So curious.
So right now, everything I'm talking about is all,
General,
it's everything. So it's got the utilities. So if you look at it, you won't see utility or water and sewer. It says business type. It's our lingo. We're required to. So when you see the governmental, that's general fund. Any kind of like special revenue, we add it. So always look in the back, because it'll break it out more in the back, and then in the front, it gets, I know it's kind of confusing. We've got a lot. It's a lot of work, actually, governmentals are, so you've got a good team. So if you turn to the next page, I guess I'm missing 11, is your statement of activities, which is also, you can call it your income statement, your profit and loss. For governmental, we call it statement of activities. That's why this report, if you look at it in the MD&A, I feel like it's more user-friendly to read it than this format. But basically what this is saying for the year is that you had total revenues of $11 million and total expenses of $9.6 million. Which left you with a positive change in net assets of about $1.5 million. Now, compared to prior year, your revenues are up overall 22%. And most of the changes this year have been like you've got the American Rescue Plan grant fund. So that was a big change in your governmental funds. I mean, because your governmental funds went up 70% for that. Because if there's a whole column. Are y'all looking at it? There's a whole column. See that third column in? You see where you see like the 1.1 million? All that is like the grant funds. Those last two columns are like the big, usually what are going to be your changes from year to year. So I know this year compared to prior year, most of it was general fund got grants, the utility system didn't get grants that they had last year. So it's kind of like they alternated. Last year, general fund didn't get them, but they got them this year. So those are the big changes. Are there any questions on that? So like I said, those are full accrual, which is like more like the goal behind that is to make it more like a business. So you can compare apples to apples, if you will. The rest of it is going to be what we call fund financials. It's more probably what you're looking at on a month-to-month basis, more so you can tell your budget to actual. So I'm not going to go into those too much in detail if you don't have any questions. The footnotes are pages 20 through 44 are your footnotes. And what those do is those basically are supposed to give you more explanation on what makes up your statement of net position in your balance sheet. It's going to give you more of a breakout on your fixed assets, what makes up your long-term debt, things like that. So I always recommend you read this at your leisure as well. I'm not going to, bore y'all, if you will, going through all those, but I think you do kind of, if you read through it, sometimes you learn some interesting stuff. The biggest thing to note is our very last footnote, subsequent events. It's just telling you that we have evaluated everything through the date on our auditor's report. Anything after wouldn't have been included in this audit. And then the remainder of the audit is just supplemental information. Some of it's required, some of it's just other supplementary information. We don't form an opinion on this information, but we make sure it matches. It agrees to your audit. Are there any questions? So somebody was good and utilized those grant funds out there, which we like to see, right? All that free money. Doing good things for the city.
So in your opinion, we're in pretty good shape financially?
I think so, yes. Based on, this is last year now.
Yes.
Was,
Yeah.
Thanks to
when I
grants.
walk out and this, don't say the auditor said,
Well, I would point out that
Moody's already issued that.
you said our assets
Yeah, they don't.
increased
auditors
like
don't issue
1.4
bond. Moody's does
million,
Would
1.5.
the change, correct. Well, your revenue exceeded your expenses, so basically your net position did go up. It's kind of, not to be a stickler, but not really your assets. Your pool of, your profits and losses. You had a profit of that much for last year to add to the accumulation. I know everybody says assets minus liabilities, which never
I guess
doesn't mean a lot.
my point would be if we got 1.1 million in grants, we actually improved by more than the grant.
More than the grant, but it may not necessarily, because you'll spend, just remember you're going to spend those grant funds as well. Yeah. So, it could be a timing thing too. So I'll remind people next year. Like if there's a big, you can't say I'm not supposed to say negative. If you had a decrease, if your revenues were less than your expenses. Now we can't say if it's a positive or a negative, So next year you may have it twist on you just due to timing, because you got to spend that good money.
It's good to hear that we're in good shape.
And you have a really good team, because it seems like they've got a lot of good. Always forget. Feel like the counting and all that gets, but it's a lot. They do a good job.
Yeah. Well, it shows in this audit.
I think so too. And it's good y'all monitor it on a regular basis too. That's the stuff we look for. So we consider all that when we do our audit.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Mr. Burton, you good?
Yes, sir. I just have it on the agenda. We'll need to vote to accept the audit and the opinion in the discussion time after all the ordinances. So
Okay.
I appreciate their work, their ease to work with. So, and Jason and Ashley's contributions too. They really, the outside accountant really helped us in segregating the auditor and accountant duties. Put us to where we are and, you know, meeting all the gap requirements. So I
And
appreciate their work.
they're a good firm too.
Yeah.
Just
Thank you.
thank y'all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is Mr. Jason Cox.
I didn't know if I was going to be called.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jason Cox. I'm here today to ask for a vote to approve a leak reduction to my water bill. Beginning of the month, I received a water bill for $1,796. I did have a water leak. I have a picture of the leak here and a picture of the receipt where I bought and fixed it within 2 hours. I came and asked for a leak reduction and was approved for the reduction, and then after that I stated that the bill was in my late father's name. So after that they said, well, it's not in the provisions to be approved for a leak reduction. I know that is in the provisions. I don't really feel that that's right. This water meter's been in my family for about 50 years. Grandparents, my dad, myself. I do work out of town. I really don't have any excuse for not getting it put in my name. There was times where I could have, but just didn't happen, didn't get thought about, got overlooked. Is there any questions from any of you?
Where's the property? Is it
It's off of Dole Street.
your residence?
Yes, sir.
What was the amount, sir? Can you repeat it?
$1,796.
He looks like a good person, okay? He's just trying to tell you, I'm in a situation now with my parents, and it gets hard. So, you know, the house is there. I don't know if there's any way we could help him. I wish we could. So, I guess he's trying to do the right thing.
We'll
and
need
that's
to
a lot
take
of-
that up because it's a contractual matter. We'll need to take that up in executive session.
I don't know how we can do it, but we'll, so.
All right.
Well,
Somebody will-
So it's, and I understand it was your father's property, but, I mean, is someone living there now? If the-
I live there.
You live in that, on that property where the meter is?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
That's all.
Is this something we'll know tonight, or?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the agenda at the end to discuss that. So
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Okay, administrator comments, Mr. Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one thing. I'll keep it brief. I did get, as everybody knows, with the SCIP grants, the ACOG has been contracted with RIA. They're going to be our project manager. So I did sign an agreement with ACOG for them to act as our more or less project manager for this project. We don't have to pay them anything. RIA is paying them. So I just wanted to make you aware that I did enter into that agreement since there was no transfer of funds. I didn't feel like it needed a full council approval, but again, that they've done this on several other projects where they'll do the project management, make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and since it is federal funds, trickle down through the state, there'll be a lot of reporting requirements, and they'll handle that for us. So that's all I have.
Okay. Okay, our next item is a good one. Resolution 2023-11. It's the resolution honoring Christopher Truman Galloway. We want him to come up where we can present it to him.
Chris, thank you for everything. Not many people. How many years do you have in?
28.
28.
Almost
That's a
28.
long time. A lot of dedication to the city.
Okay.
Okay. It's a resolution to honor Christopher Truman Galloway. Whereas Christopher Truman Galloway began his career with the city of Walhalla on May the 30th, 1995. Christopher began as a meter reader and progressed to lead meter reader. Christopher has updated and organized all our meter routes to streamline the reading process. Christopher was instrumental in our own backflow prevention system, our valve inspection and maintenance programs. And Chris is noted for having a photographic memory, recalling many meters and valve locations. His work ethic and determination has been a tremendous asset to the city of Walhalla, and Christopher was always willing to put forth extra effort. Now, therefore, Walhalla City Council resolves to commend Christopher T. Galloway on a job well done and expresses their gratitude for his service for 28 years. Be it further resolved, Walhalla City Council wishes Christopher T. Galloway a happy and healthy retirement. And so it's resolved this the 16th of May, 2023.
Congratulations.
Somebody wants victory?
We'll never replace them either. So we'll never replace them.
You also spent a little time as a police reserve officer, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, from 2002 to 2009.
Yeah, you guys,
Yeah. We might need to move that
yeah,
podium
let's
if we
move
can,
the podium.
just so that can bring to the center. Let's give it another round of applause.
we gonna do public comment on each one of these as we go through it?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
what we need
Yes,
to
sir.
do?
But before we move on to that, I know everyone, I think, agreed, but just for the record, if we could have a motion and a second and vote on that resolution. So we'll have it in the record.
Absolutely. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That one's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to the second reading of ordinances, and we will have public comment on each one of these, so John Marshall, if I forget, you punch me, okay? The first one is ordinance 2023-11, and Mr. Burton, would you like to explain what that is?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance 2023-11 to repeal 2020-16, replace it with this ordinance that discusses your committee structure, your makeup, and the timing of those committee meetings. Briefly, just run down through it. We have a little bit of back and forth about the mayor pro tem. State law says the mayor pro tem cannot serve more than 2 years, but what y'all elected to do, and if it passes tonight, you'll just go ahead and appoint that mayor pro tem at the first of every calendar year. So you'll get a new mayor pro tem every year. Could. The next big change is in blue, we added the Community Development Committee. We did that in 2020, I believe the summer of 2021 when we recreated that department. And then the General Government Finance Committee will now consist of the council as the whole, and the mayor will serve as the chair. And currently it's three members of council serves on the Government and Finance Committee. The membership of the committee will rotate on, each of the committees rotate off every 2 years. Each committee will meet as needed at the call of a majority of the committee or the chairman who presides on each of those committees.
Okay. At this time, I'm gonna open this ordinance for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to comment on the second reading of ordinance 2023-11? Any questions? Comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to accept ordinance 2023-11.
Have a motion? Second?
Yes, sir.
Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Okay,
I do. I've noticed that there, just to be uniformed on when we describe who is presiding each meeting, I would like to encourage my colleagues to see if we can consider changing it to a chairperson. I know we have chair in some of them, and some of them says chairman, so I would like to amend and strike chairman and put chairperson. To be uniformed, that includes the one that says the mayor shall serve as a chairperson. So we can have some language that's uniformed. I've only saw it twice, so I make a motion that we can amend the word chairman or chair and add it as chairperson.
I'll second.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to the amendment of the ordinance? Everybody good? All right, so we're gonna vote on the amendment,
Correct.
and then we will vote on the amended ordinance.
Correct.
Okay.
If we have more, Mayor, just for clarification, if we have another suggestion, do we vote on this amendment and then we continue to the next?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. All right. All those in favor of the amendment as stated, aye.
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 Opposed? Don't think there is any. So 2023-11 is now amended as such. Now, is there any other discussion on this ordinance? Anything else that we need to take a look at? Everybody good?
I do have a comment.
Okay.
On the section 4 standing committee, it states the standing committees that we have, which is all in alignment. We do have the general government in twice, general government and finance committee. So what I would like to see is, again, uniform in our policy. So the general government, the red part on section 4, I would like to move that section into the committee membership, which reflects what are we talking about when we're talking about the standing committees. Does that make sense? So on the standing committee, it's just giving direction of our 7 standing committee, which we already have the General Government Finance Committee numbered at number 6.
Mr. Burton, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but that, what you're seeing in the red is just the change in the way the General Government and Finance Committee is being changed from before. It is now council as a whole, whereas before it was only 3 members.
Right.
But it's still the same committee as what is up there, number 6.
Right, so I would like to have that section, the General Government Finance Committee shall consist as a council as a whole. The mayor should serve as a chairperson, to be moved to section 5 under committee membership. Because we have identified it already as a standing committee, number 6. We're just adding clarity on the membership on that. That's what I understand it as. It's keeping the same sentence structure, but just moving it down to committee membership.
Does it seem unclear to you as it is?
I
Is
just
that
think
what
it
you're?
needs to be done in the appropriate, section that it's referring to.
Well, it's understanding committees now. I'm
Right.
not trying to be argumentative, I
Right.
just don't understand what the difference is, what is going to make. Whether it's in section 4 or 5, it's gonna have the.
Well, section 5 is just talking about the membership of the committees.
Which reflects that sentence that the General Government Finance Committee shall consist as a council
So
as a
you
whole.
wanna move what's in the red down to section 5?
Yes, sir. The mayor should serve as a chairperson. Cause that's what we were saying on the committee
Okay.
membership.
Okay,
Since we're all gonna be participating on that.
I'm with you now, I
Yeah.
was a little confused. Okay. All
It
right, you're
allows
making that in the form of.
I can make that change. I don't think that needs to be an amendment. You're not changing the definition. You're not changing any specific wording. You're just moving that to a different section. That's an editorial that we can make and change. So it's not gonna change
Not
the
gonna change the
intent of the
structure.
ordinance, the structure of anything. That's just a grammatical thing. We can move that there. That's no problem.
Okay.
Okay, I do
Yeah.
beg to differ.
Yeah.
I understand that you're explaining that, but I would like to seek legal advice of understanding that this is a policy that we're going over. And there's an amendment just to move structure, not moving language, just to move it. Can that be done without just having that in an amendment and just adding that? I'm not trying to complicate things, I just know that if this is a policy that we're reviewing and we're gonna vote on,
You've made a motion at this point, so I
Yeah.
think the question is whether or not your motion gets a second or your
It
motion
did.
dies.
Did it get a second?
Not on this one.
I'd
yet.
second it.
We're still just discussing.
I
the-
second
well, we're
it.
discussing it, but I was, yeah.
So I just suppose from that parliamentary standpoint, you made a motion, he seconded the motion, now the motion's on the floor.
Okay. All right, for the sake of clarity, we'll go ahead. Is there any other questions or discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed, as there is any?
Aye.
Okay, we're good. All right, is there anything else we need to discuss on 2023-11. Everybody good? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? So it's unanimous. That one's done. Alright, let's go to the next ordinance. 2023-12. Mr. Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This reflects the last 2 years' worth of work where we have codified our city ordinances, put them online. The attorneys worked very hard and diligently to assign chapter numbers and everything to all our ordinances. We still will have the notebook copies here. They'll still be posted to the internet. This just codifies that into sections and makes that current with state law.
Is there anyone in the public in the room tonight that would like to do public comment on this ordinance 2023-12? All right, do I have a motion? Yes.
Tim Baker. I actually live just outside of the city of Walhalla, but I have a question about putting these ordinances into an online format. Is it something that will be available to anybody to be able to see? And what is your structure for making sure that it gets updated on a periodic basis?
They're already online. You can go to our city website and click on the eGov 360, or you can download an app so anybody has access to those. After tonight, I'll scan all the ordinances that are approved, send them to our attorneys that manages our general code, and they'll upload those. On the side, there'll be a tab that says new laws, and they'll list those out every 6 months. They'll take those laws, they'll codify them into the actual structure, so they'll remove those and put those into the body of the thing. So it'll be updated. The new laws take effect once new ordinances take effect once after the second reading they're passed. They get uploaded, and then they'll be incorporated every 6 months in the actual body of the document.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question. All right, do I have a motion on this ordinance?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion, council? I think we're all pretty familiar with what's going on here. All right, all those in favor of ordinance 2023-12? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Don't think there is any, so that one's good. All right, let's go to ordinance 2023-13. Mr. Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the ordinance to raise and revenue and adopt a budget for the general water, sewer, and hospitality funds, known as the unified budget for the city of Walhalla. I do have on staff recommendation, I would like to amend the fee schedule. I left out the memorial field on the fee schedule. I noticed that on the version that you sent, some of the sales and the community development schedule wasn't open wide enough, so some of the words got cut off. And then on the enterprise funds, I made a note at the bottom that the remainder of our sewer fees are also set by Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority, and there's a hyperlink to those. They'll be updated once their budget's passed, but let everyone know that in addition to the city fees, there's also some sewer fees from Joint Regional as well, since we are changing our fee structure on that. I just wanted to make you aware of that.
And that's on,
That's at the very end. It's the 4 pages of the schedule of fees,
yes, sir.
5 pages.
All right, somebody will Does somebody need to make a motion to amend that?
Well, we need public comment.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to have, but I would just like to make sure that
Okay.
those are entered in at some point.
All right. At this time, is there anyone that would like to publicly comment on ordinance 2023-13? Have any comments from the public? Okay. Do I have a motion that we adopt this to bring it to the floor?
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 2023-13.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay. All right. That'll open it for discussion.
I would like to make a motion to amend the budget to include an across-the-board pay raise for the employees of $3,000 each.
I'll second that.
How many employees do we have?
70, we've got 71 positions.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is this, my question, Councilman King, is this a pay increase or is it a bonus?
Pay increase. Everyone's salary would be increased by $3,000.
I have a total of 210,000. Can somebody check after me? Okay.
Brandon, how many city employees?
71 currently. It's 213,000.
Just so I can have some guidance, is this up for discussion?
Yes, it is up for discussion.
How would this reflect back on our charts that we're looking at? Where would it go?
It would add $213,000.
Okay. Is there,
Each department would have to,
I would have to figure that out. This is the first I've heard of it. So I would have to go back and figure all the departments. I don't know which department, how much department would get which, but just looking at it, taking it at face value, it would increase $213,000 unless we cut other stuff. So that's the best answer I can give right now.
Well, it's gonna be more than $213,000.
that's true.
If you give them a salary adjustment, then it affects, the retirement and insurance, not insurance, but, all our fees.
Yeah, I would just have to go
Social
back and
Yeah,
figure up our
that's-
taxes
Our
and our
fees.
contributions.
That is about 20 some odd percent.
We figure roughly 35% for fringe benefits. $287,550 if you just simply multiply that 1.35.
Any questions, comments? All right. First, we'll need to vote on his amendment.
Yes, sir.
Because there may be others, is that
Correct.
That's the way we'll do this. Okay. All those in favor of Mr. Keene's amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion fails. All right, does anyone else have amendments they would like to propose?
I have one, please, sir.
Okay.
Under the water crew department, I'd like to amend to delete those two new positions. They're being added in this budget. They're not standing right now, so they're new positions. I'd like to amend to remove those, and then on the same line, take one of the positions and add it under the water billing department as a titled assistant city clerk for the salary not to exceed $37,000. I'll make that in form of a motion.
Could you say that one more time?
Remove the two water crew positions,
Okay.
add a water billing position as a city clerk assistant.
Okay.
What that will help us do is do all the clerical work to give our administrator and our clerk assistants to get him out of the office, go out and do recruitment, for contractors, developers, to help raise our city revenues. That is the goal for adding that assistant position.
Do
I'm
we have
sorry.
a second? I'm sorry.
No, we do
Oh,
not.
yeah,
Okay.
just wait for a minute.
Would someone like to second that where we can discuss it?
I'll second, so we can discuss.
Okay. Now we have a motion and a second.
Keith, would you just repeat that again?
Okay, the budget includes two new positions,
In the water.
in the water crew.
Mm-hmm.
One was like an operator, and one was like a little higher paid salary, like a supervisor between those two.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making the motion to remove those two positions and then add the higher salary paid one in the billing side, put them in here as an assistant to do clerical work, to get Brandon out of this building, to do administrative work out in the public.
Mm-hmm.
The difference will go back into the account under the water department?
Yes.
Can we, you've gone over this with our director of the water department. I'm glad he's here. Can we ask him how this will affect his plans and schedule for his projects? Because I believe we were seeking to have an extra water crew out of
Well,
necessity.
The way it was explained was to have another crew, a two-man crew, and feel free to step in if I get off track here, but to help with projects. So our departments that's working can go out and do leak repair, tap installations, that sort of thing, without being pulled off to do projects. With all the grant money we've gotten in for infrastructure, most of that's probably gonna be contracted out right now. So basically, I'm just saying, let's cancel these for right now. Down the road, we can probably look at putting them in there.
You see that, I'm not even sure that we can use that skip money to do that, but could we talk to Director Paris, because he'd be the expert on this?
Yeah, we'll entertain any questions you have, yeah.
Yeah, so, Scott, would you mind coming up? I'd like to know, it's in the budget to have the other crew. Was that an accurate reflection of what the other crew would be needed for?
Yes, we've got, as far as projects, we have fire line projects that are not complete at this point. We do have fire hydrants that around the system that need maintenance. And there are a couple of areas that may be coming up with development that we'll have to do some line extensions to boost service to those. And as far as the SCIP grant, just explaining what my understanding of that is, we had to do a preliminary engineering report for that to show needs and projects with schedules, costs, timelines, things like that. And also beneficiaries that would, or customers that would get the benefit of that, members of the public that would see improved service or receive service. So we have a specific list of projects, which we have several thousand feet of sewer rehab that are included in that grant. We have several thousand feet of water improvements and a replacement for a booster station and a line to feed that. So those projects are what were approved through the SCIP grant. If there were changes to that, I don't know how well that would be received by Rural Infrastructure, who's administering this. And Brendan, chime in if you have other thoughts, but I think that would be looked at negatively by the grant organization if we went in now that we've been awarded the funds and changed the project list. So that would be my concern. I'm not saying make the change, but as far as contracting out and the things that we looked at for that, with that money, I don't know that we would be able to do that. Is that your thoughts? Or?
Yeah, we were awarded that grant for those, as I understand, to do that $11 million worth of work.
So, and just to refresh everyone's memory of what that includes, the remainder of our Cane Creek trunk line going from 183 down to our connection point with the Sewer Authority. That is multiple creek crossings that are in need of replacement and rehabilitation of the lines and the manholes from between those 2 points. The other section is on Flat Rock, going from the general area of the county offices on South Pine Street, from there down to our connection point with OJRSA at Flat Rock Road. And that will pair well with the project that Sewer Authority has for replacement of that Flat Rock lift station. So our other sewer project is our outfall that goes towards South Highway 11, down through the Rimrod area, down by the body shop on Highway 11, Jehovah's Witness campus. There is where it all ties back together. So those three trunk line projects are included in this, and that will consist of lining the pipe, replacing sections of pipe that need it, upgrading and repairing manholes, raising them above flood level. For the water side, we have the northwest corner, portion of the northwest corner of town, from Main Street to Broad Street, and the streets in between, side streets, because those lines are some of the originals that came into town that were installed in 1922. So those are just over 100 years old. The old cast iron lines. We have rust issues in those lines because they're unlined. We have a lot of galvanized pipe in that area. We have a lot of older, that's some of the oldest portion of the system. And with some of the new mandates coming up from the EPA and from DHEC, that's when we chose that area as a place to concentrate on to do some rehab and replacement. The other area is our Rocky Knoll Booster Pump Station. That was put online in 1980, and it was bought used at the time. So we have had to do patches and repairs on the tank at that site. We have limited capacity at that site. We don't have the ability for fire flow beyond that station on the upstream side. So our plan is to have a new line that connects on South Broad Street and goes up to that station, and replace the station and the tank with a modern upgrade to give higher flows, we hope to provide fire protection for that area, and just improve service for the customers in that area. So those are the main projects that we have planned for this the grant funds as it stands right now.
So assuming the IRA would not have any problem with us using the money in these the things we didn't ask for it for,
Mm-hmm.
Would there be, once we used it for the things we did ask for it for, do you think there's gonna be any money left over?
Right now, with the current economic situation, I would not think so. because the reason I say that, I think there's going to be a foot race to get projects out, because once the first few projects hit the streets, contractors get booked, prices are going to increase. Also, material availability is going to be an issue. Over the last 2 years, we've had issues, 8 to 12 month lead times on pipe. I feel like that's going to be amplified as this money hits the streets, the bids go out, the contractors get tied up. I hope I'm wrong, but you have a similar feeling on that.
Yeah, I would say it's gonna be a mad dash. That's accurate
Yeah.
assessment.
So
What
that's
about, Scott, what about, in-kind labor? We have the ability to do some in-kind work possibly.
I'm not positive on this particular.
We've not attended the training for that yet. RA and ACOG will have training to inform everyone of the rules. That's part of the agreement that we signed, and we have that at the end of the month.
So how would this leave you? So this being the case, if we shifted, you didn't get this crew, and you shifted someone over, it doesn't look like we're gonna be able to use any money to hire anyone to do the job that this crew was going to do. What, does this leave us behind and getting further behind, or just maintaining the status quo? What's your thought on that?
Well, we would be on the same track we are now. These things that are hanging out there, we do them when we have some free time to get to them, but that's rare. And I will say, Keith's proposal this office is packed. The folks here are slammed. Brandon is, Ashley is, we all are. Both would need. But to answer your specific question on the crew, the projects would continue to drag along as they are, and we would get to them as we have time. Right now, we are back down by 2 folks. Well, we will be as of June 1st. Brad left about a month ago. Chris is leaving soon, so we'll be back in that, filling in the gaps as we can. We do have advertisements out. I don't think we've had any applications at this point, so that's kind of what our current status is on employees right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion?
What does the dollar figure look like on doing this switch in terms of the budget?
Well, it's, one position was 37 and change, I think, and one was 31. So it would put 31 plus the fringes back into the budget.
Mr. Jordan, you're looking about adding back about 42,120 neighborhood. That's with the base salary and fringes. Total, yes. That's for that maintenance position that would have been advertised at $15 an hour, around 31.2, and then 35% on top of that. So we're at about 42.1. That would be added back into the budget. Oh, I say added back, that would free up, that would reduce that budget by that amount.
We reduced our budget by that 42,000?
Correct, unless y'all directed me to spend it elsewhere. It would reduce that budget, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you give your advice on covering the SCIP grant obligation if we drop those 2 crewmen?
Honestly, without knowing all the ins and outs about what RA is going to require until we attend that training, I just know that we applied for the grant for those projects that Mr. Parrish described, and that money's to be used for that. If we can do some force account, I don't know yet. I don't know what the rules for that. If it all 100% has to be contracted out, or we can do a mixture of in-house and contracted labor. I'll just have to get further advice from ACOG on that.
Other comments on Mr. Pace's motion? sent you all an email this afternoon. I'd just like to say, I don't have any problem with us adding people. The problem is, we're $480,000 roughly out of budget, income versus expenditures. I think that's what we would have to take from ARPA funds that we've
Correct.
received in the past.
Correct.
And I think we need to lower that. I just think we need to figure out ways to do that. I agree, Scott, I understand the position you're in. You need the two people, but we've gotta figure out how to pay for them. And yeah, I would love to have some more office help, but in my honest opinion, right now is not the time. You beat me to the punch, so
Well, I'm thinking down the road, and you know, everybody wants to give our workers a pay increase.
Sure.
And the only way we can do that in the future is to increase our revenue. And if we can't sell this commercial property and get some commercial retail business license and taxes in here, I don't know how else we're gonna do it. And, you know, our quarterback's tied up back here 3 or 4 hours a day doing clerical work. And that's what I'm looking at, that position, to move that position in here to where he can help get our revenue up. That's where I'm coming from on that move.
Okay, any other discussion on Mr. Pace's amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Alright, that one carries. Anyone else have amendments they would like to propose? I have a couple, but I was gonna let anyone go first.
I have one
Okay.
other. We voted last month on this, working on this, I don't know how to actually title it, the language for this retirement account to help our long-term employees when they retire out early to continue health benefit. We did vote to add that in, but we did not discuss any money. I'd like to just make a motion that we put a $5,000 line item in for that particular thing for the next year.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
I have a question for Brandon. So, I thought it would just be funded as they retire.
It will be. It will be as they retired, but for bookkeeping and stuff, if we set this retirement insurance fund up, we can contribute every year to that fund
To have some ahead of
to
time.
have some ahead of time, because if this passes, we've got a retiree that's getting ready to leave.
That's right.
So that way they'll already be funds obligated for the program, and then in the future, when you just add to those, and making sure that we add to those, it makes it easier on whoever develops the budget. They don't have to remember to add 5,000, 7,000, however much into the salary or the retirement line item for the particular department. Irregardless of the department, it can go in this fund and then cover.
I understand. Thank you.
And every year might not need that, you know, it's
Correct.
be a revolving amount of what's coming, you know, as far as the retirees coming
Yeah,
up.
I
each year.
understand. I'm gonna vote against the budget, but I think since you're gonna vote it in, I think that's a good thing to have in it.
Thank you.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, to add a line item that states retirement insurance fund, start off with 5,000 for this new physical year, and then have that continue on until it hits what this Article 6 says. A retirement insurance fund established for the sole purpose of covering insurance expenses for city retirees, and it has all those.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you made that as a motion, and did we have a second?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All those in favor of this amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
That one passes. Anyone else? Okay, I've got a couple I would like to propose. And we can make them as one, I hope. The first item would be to reduce the capital improvement fund from $80,000, or to reduce the amount we put in the capital improvement fund from $80,000 to $25,000. Mr. Burton, you can tell us about approximately how much money you think we'll have at the end of this year, but we will have some money left in that fund, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll have, I did the final numbers for that, cause we just got done selling a bunch of vehicles. We probably, I think, accrued around $70,000 on this last round of sales, so we did pretty good.
Okay, so if we added 25,000, that would give us a little over
Fresh to start with,
close to
yes.
$100,000 with, after we sell this equipment that we're gonna be selling especially. All right, by doing that, that would save us $55,000. That would come off the $480 that we were gonna have to use ARPA money. On the amendment that just passed, that would reduce 42,000. So that is 42 and 55. That would be 97,000. If we reduce the part-time rec position to 2 instead of 3, that will save us $21,000, which will get the number up to 118,000 that we would be saving. The Greenway money, we have already said that we would, I think we voted in the first read to move that money back to
The balance.
general fund.
The balance.
The balance, yes, the 100,000 that is
100 and change.
supposedly gonna be left. So that's gonna leave us, saving 218,000 of the 480. That's not half. I was hoping to get it to that. But that's the motion that I would like to make.
I'll second.
All right, motion
What was
is,
the motion?
I can briefly, correct me if I'm wrong, I've been wrong several times tonight. Reduce the capital improvement program from $80,000 to $25,000. That would be our annual contribution. That would save roughly $55,000, and reduce the proposed number of part-timers from 3 to 2. That would save
21.
$21,000.
21.
Then that brings us about to 118,000, and then the 100,000 and some change from the Greenway Fund would.
Okay, so it's all one motion.
Correct.
Okay, all right, that's what, I heard that, okay.
Okay.
All right,
And that's close to that.
that's close to half. It's not half, but it's close. 480 roughly. Any other questions on the motion?
We're open for discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
So, as I seeing this overall, what's happening is that we're in this high inflation. We've got our employees not well paid. And we're not gonna keep up, we're not gonna give them any cost of living adjustment. So they're gonna be getting by with less, because they don't have the earning power. And then we're gonna make it harder for them by seeing their workload increase because of this. So they need extra workers, they need help, but we're not gonna give them any help, and we're not gonna give them any money. So we're already trying to get blood out of a turnip, and now we're going further? We're gonna get more blood out of this turnip? And so what happens when the employees say, man, how far can I bend over backwards? And then we already are having a hard time. We can't fill water plant. We can't fill water plant employees. We're gonna have 2 more in the water department. And what happens when people say, forget this? Forget this. How far are these people gonna make us bend over backward? There's gonna be a break-in point.
You finished?
I'm finished.
I'd like to comment myself. I have a hard time on this $80,000 on the capital fund, cause we set that up with really good intentions. What will help me indulge that a little bit is we did have a good turnout on the surplus sale. The positions at the rec department, that was the goal of pretty much this whole council, was to improve and grow our rec department. And we took a survey from the city, and they also had input on it. I just can't vote to cut those positions.
Well, I'm cutting one.
I know, but with part-time help at that rec department, it's gonna be hard to get them, and then depend on them all at the same time. So I think that is a position we have to fill, because we're adding those new sports.
What would be the total of number of staff for
Here
parking lot?
is the overlap of the timeline that our rec department employees work from one sport to the other. There is a huge overlap from February to December. Multiple sports going on. We've got soccer, fall ball, cheerleading, football, and baseball. That's all from spring to late fall, and that's when these 2 new ones are going in, and that's where the part-timers are gonna fill in. I can go along with the other, Mr. Mayor, but I can't go along with that.
That would put Park and Rec and how much staff with those 3?
Well, there's
It's just-
4.
You're just adding 3 part-timers is what was in the budget.
Yeah,
And we have 4 now.
We
on
currently
staff.
have 4,
yeah.
full-time.
If we reduce the 120, that'd bring it to about 997,000.
Because Mr. Galbraith explained, he has to hire certified officials to run them, and it's gonna be tight, it's gonna be hard.
I understand, and I've made my motion and I've said my piece, and, if it's doable, can I withdraw the motion?
Someone can move to amend the motion, amend your amendment to the motion.
I would like to make a motion to amend the mayor's amendment to remove the part-time positions from his amendment. That's me.
So that would leave 3,
That'd leave 3 part-timers and reduce the capital fund.
I don't think we'll reduce the capital fund myself, And it puts us back in a position that we
I
was
know.
as far as, trash trucks tearing up and we had.
Well, that's for purchases. That money's for purchases. The only reason I'm entertaining that right now is 'cause we just had a nice sale.
Yeah, but still,
I know.
Something can happen, who say the trash truck don't, we had one trash truck burn up, it can happen again, though we got insurance, but we're setting stuff, we're putting things in place that helps us out. And we've never had this before, capital improvement plan,
Well,
we've never
that's
had this before.
an example. It wasn't a police car we lost, and we used that to replace it instantly.
We've used that fund several times.
Yes.
And that's why I'm saying, I don't
Oh,
wanna
I know.
see, I don't wanna see it, I wanna see it continue.
Well, it would have over $100,000 in it.
That doesn't replace a trash truck.
I kinda like to keep it where it is, but that's just me, so, I think it's important, very important.
Well, you made a motion to amend the
Well, it
amendment.
never was seconded either.
All right.
Did you get a second?
No.
I'll second the amended amendment to still keep one of the, or we're gonna take out.
Basically, all it was doing was using the mayor's amendment on the capital fund.
I like everything else. Wonderful.
All right, any other discussion?
So we're keeping the,
That's just on this amendment. It would, only thing, if you vote what I just said, I'm compromising, would be to keep the full-time, or the part-time employees at rec and reduce the payment to 25,000 this year in the capital fund.
All right, everybody understand the amendment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So the motion, the budget
Amendment.
carries. All right, is there any other,
Now, that was the amendment to the amendment. Now we gotta vote for
Yes,
the
you-
amendment.
yep, correct.
Yes.
okay,
You're-
so we
you're-
vote for the second.
You
Second
amended your
time on
amendment.
the amendment, I'm
Yes,
with you, okay.
Need a program for
Scorecard,
this.
yeah. All those in favor?
Explain what, explain where we're at.
Where you're at now is, I'll go reverse order, the Greenway is still the 100,000 and change savings will go back to general fund. Part-time as proposed for rec will stay at 3, and the, contribution to the capital improvement fund will be 25,000.
Now,
That
the
is the
Greenway's
amended
already
motion.
going back there.
That is the
That's
amended
not-
motion, yeah. That was.
That was
part-
already said.
Correct, but that was a part of his motion, so that's
Okay.
why I included that.
Mhm.
Everybody understand now? All right. All those in favor of the amended version of this ordinance,
Or amendment.
of the amendment, I'm sorry,
25,000.
man.
25.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right. The budget ordinance has been amended to reflect what Mr. Burton just said. Is there any other items that would need to be, someone want to add or
I
subtract?
have a question
Okay.
for Mr. Burton. Under, administration, I'm pretty sure we have a line item for training,
Correct,
covers you and department heads.
correct.
And then under individual departments, I see a line item for training. Some of those are kinda high and some are not.
Correct.
Can you explain?
The department training, that's for multiple folks, that will go. A lot of our fire, just for example, fire and police training isn't local anymore. They need to go to Columbia, Atlanta, Nashville. There's some trips that they can go outside of Las Vegas, but that's paid for by the training agency, so that doesn't cost the city on that. but we're finding they're having to go to get the more specialized technical training. They're having to go outside the Tri-County area, so there's some travel there. The administration training, the intent there was for myself, for Ashley, and for department heads that need either supervisor management training, some sort of HR training, some sort of specialized training for that department, Leadership Institute, something like that, that administration could pay for that and it not come out of their departmental budget.
Okay, alright.
Other questions? Alright. Hearing none, all those in favor of the ordinance as amended, that's ordinance 2023-13. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda is ordinance 2023-14. Mr. Burton, I'm gonna turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance to amend our zoning ordinance and make essentially do a rezone. Parcel 500-06-01-005 and parcel number 500-06-01-007. This is the property on Frank Martin. Currently is R25, single family residential, and have been requested to rezone to multifamily residential.
This is second reading, so we'll be opening for public comment at this time. Public hearing, yes. Yes, sir.
My name's Timothy Hopkins. I live on 111 Frank Martin Drive, which this property they're talking about being a multi-complex or whatever it's going to be. I think it ought to, my opinion is, I think it ought to stay as housing, just single housing or two little houses or whatever, because to me, I don't think you need a duplex there because it's a quiet little community. And on the other side of the road, and it's just all been peaceful, and you don't have, I mean, you can leave your doors unlocked at night, and ain't many places you can do that anymore. So, I mean, I know we got Walla Gardens on one side and Wagner on the other side, but, you know, that's just my opinion. I just don't think that should be appropriate there. I think it should be for individual houses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Okay, I'm going to come at this from a little bit of a different direction. My name's Henry Brown, and we've kind of been through this before. Me and Keith have been through this battle, and some of you may remember it.
I'm sorry, may you state your address, please?
My address is 1512 Playground Road. That's just outside the city, but my wife and I also own a house inside the city on Church Street, and we pay 3 different water bills to the city. The issue that I have is this was a good night to come because we've talked a lot about ordinances and the importance of the wording of ordinances. I know it's important to follow ordinances. Some of you may remember a few years ago, it was O'Kelly Heating and Air was painting a mural on the side of their building. They were hit with a cease and desist because they hadn't gone through the proper application process, and their whole thing got delayed and costs were incurred and things. While they went through the process, it was referred back to the application process, and they had to go through, and correctly so. And we've been talking about ordinances. I downloaded this ordinance this afternoon from the city website, so I'm going to assume that it's correct and it's current. It's Article 9, Section 900 about amending zoning maps, and it gives the whole outline. If you go to the second page, section 901, it says it could be initiated by, and number 4 of highlighted property owners can do that. But then it says, any application for zoning map amendment shall be on a form supplied, and at time of application shall contain or be accompanied by a written description of present, proposed, future use, present zoning, a plan drawn to scale showing the area involved. It's my understanding that this was not provided at time of application. It still has not been provided. Section C, changes to the text should be a written proposal stating the section to be amended, just on the ordinance. 7 copies filed with the administrator. I don't know if that was done. And they're to pay all fees. The next page, Planning Commission should prepare a report making recommendations stating its findings and evaluations in respect, and they should consider the following factors. Relationship to the comprehensive plan. I don't know if anybody referred to the comprehensive plan and what it says making a change like this. Whether a request violates or supports the comprehensive plan. With D, whether the use is permitted by the proposed amendment should be appropriate in the area concerned, which is R25 right now. Whether it's in accord with any existing or proposed plans having to do with water supply and sewer, will it support it? And then it says, as a matter of policy, no request shall be acted upon favorably except where necessary to implement the comprehensive plan, correct a mistake, or recognize substantial change. So I don't think they've complied with the ordinance. I think this needs to be sent back to zoning. The developer needs to make proper application. He needs to submit plans. My understanding also is, and this is hearsay, that he says he might build duplexes, might build quads, he won't be sure. He wants to get the zoning changed first. I'm not an attorney. This would, with the legal term, be the doctrine of the tail wagging the dog at this point. So, we don't know what he's going to do. And we don't know if he gets this zoning change and then sells the property to somebody else, what they would do. So there needs to be a plan submitted and enforced, whether it's him or whoever gets the property in the future, that's what it can be, and not just like a pig in a poke. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? I'd like to speak. Yes, sir.
My name is Manny Almonte. I'm with Palmetto Construction. We're the owner of the property. To answer some of the questions, we are planning to build duplex or quad. We don't have the property cleaned yet. Now, if it's a multifamily home, it's within the guidelines of multifamily. Now, I looked at a rental property in Walhalla. The rental property, there's non-existent. So therefore, it's a good project because it provides housing for people that are needed. It's not really going to bring the property value down because it's going to be a nice subdivision. It meets all the requirements. I just don't agree with the fact that we haven't planned this out. It's either going, if we can build duplex, we're going to build duplex or quad. There's no difference in terms of multifamily homes.
Now, we're planning to build 24 units. That's basically the maximum. I'll willing to answer any questions you have.
How's the units?
Three bedroom or two bedroom. Either one, which is really needed in this area here. Affordable homes are very difficult to get nowadays.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I just want to say that I'm not saying, I'm not going to say that there's not a need for some multifamily housing, but there's a procedure, there's an ordinance, there's an order things are supposed to go. And for the protection of the citizens and the public, which is your job, those procedures need to be followed. It needs to go back to zoning. There needs to be plans, even the ones behind us. We didn't like, we didn't agree with it, but he did submit plans. And then when everybody said that wasn't gonna work, he submitted more plans. He said that wasn't gonna work, he submitted more plans. But, you know, we went through for him.
Anyone else? My thing is, the thing about rental is, you know, sometimes rental bring a lot of trouble. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But, you know, sometimes trouble follows in different places. And that could work both ways, but still, that's all in my head. And I know I was told one time that, when I first went over there, that they said that nobody could, they wanted to build some houses there at one time. The other guy did, or something, I don't remember his name right off. But anyway, they thought he could connect onto the sewer because they couldn't handle it. It was just too much. Probably was better off. Any other comments?
I agree with the gentleman about the need for housing. Right with that, absolutely. And there are places already zoned that are open, zoned for this, where apartments could go in and whatnot. This area is not zoned for this. You know, Brandon, didn't you receive a petition from some other, they came to my house. My kids signed it. I said I didn't sign it. I said I want to be able to talk to it. And I didn't know if I signed it, I could talk to it. Their roof cracks, I think. And their position was on this is we moved in here, and they're right next to it. This is right behind that. Frank Martin, they're on top of it, right behind it. That you moved here and it's a single family dwelling zone. And that's basically, this is the playing field when we moved here. This is what it is. So they know that when they come in. Now they're there and we're looking to change the rules in the midst of the game. So that's why I asked the first time we went over this ordinance, have we had anybody complain and there wasn't. At that time, we hadn't heard a thing from anybody. And so I'm like, well, if the neighbors don't mind, I'm totally into the gentleman building. But when we have neighbors there around, they do mind. And this is what they moved in. I'm not a real fan of zoning period, but this is the rules that they came in and they had when they moved in. So how do we change it on them now when they don't mind?
Yes, sir. This ordinance will replace, our new chapter 123 building and construction of city hall. This deals with, building codes, safety processes, establishes building codes office, extending their community development. Rest of the needs, installations, building codes, reference,
whether it's